Hey, Andrew here for mynexttablet.com. Today with an unboxing of the Cube Mix Plus, which is a 10.6-inch Windows tablet with an Intel Core M3 of the 7th generation. And the special thing about this tablet is that you can get it for just under $320 US, which if you think about it is very cheap for a tablet with a Core M3 7th generation chipset. And yeah, the reason why it's this inexpensive is because it's from China. It's from the manufacturer called Cube, and I got it from Gearbest. They sent it to me, and there you can get it for as of right now just under $320 US. Yeah, as I said, which is very cheap. The only downside might be, depending on where you live, that you might not have the same amount of support like you would get from, let's say, Samsung or Lenovo or whatever. But I'm not sure, I haven't tested it. Maybe their support is good. Anyway, we want to unbox this tablet because it's very cheap, and that makes it very interesting, because usually if we pay around $300, we get an Intel Atom X5, which is not the fastest processor at all. The Core M3 is a lot faster. So this is the tablet itself. I will put it to the side first so that we can take a look at everything else. By the way, you can get it with an optional keyboard dock. I believe that's around $50, $60. So if you want to use it with the official keyboard dock, then you can get that as well. I don't have it though. And the same goes for the stylus. You can get it with an active pen that supports 1024 pressure points, and then you can draw on it or something. Right, this is warranty and probably a manual, but it seems to be mostly in Chinese. No, we actually do have some English here for factory reset and so on. And then we have the standard power plug, nothing special, and actually a micro USB 3.0 to USB 3.0 adapter, which will come in handy later. So that's basically what we're getting. I will put this box to the side so that we can have a closer look at the tablet itself and see what we're getting for $320. Or if you're in Europe, you're paying 265 or 266 euros. All right, this is the Cube Mix Plus. It's a 10.6-inch Windows tablet. I actually already used it once to do my German video, and also to install Geekbench, so that I've got a bit more to show during an unboxing. Otherwise it might be a bit too boring. So we've got a 10.6-inch screen here, and the special thing about it is that it's an HD screen, full HD screen, not HD, full HD, and we can quickly check that in the settings. And we actually have here 1920 by 1080, so it's a nice high resolution screen on 10.6 inches. It's an IPS panel, and the viewing angles are not bad actually, they're quite nice. And yeah, that seems pretty nice. The only thing I'm seeing is that there's like a plastic cover here on the display to protect it. There's also a protection while transport. I already put it off. And there's some plastic protection on here. You probably shouldn't remove it if you don't want to have scratches on the screen itself. You can replace it obviously if you like. The only downside I'm seeing with the display right now, it seems to be very sharp. The brightness seems to be good as well, but there's like a millimeter gap between the touch screen, the touch surface here, and the IPS panel between. We're seeing this quite a lot with mostly cheaper tablets, and this is a pretty cheap tablet, especially if you're looking at the processor on side, so that's kind of to be expected. So there's just about a millimeter gap between. Usually that doesn't bother me. If you're using it with the pen, then maybe it will bother you a bit more, because it might seem like you're not pointing exactly at something, even though you might be. Alright, let's go further around the device. 2 megapixel front facing camera, then a Windows button here on the bottom. And yeah, on this side we've got the connector for the optional keyboard dock. If you are living outside the US or anywhere where you're not using the standard English US keyboard, then you're kind of out of luck. So I'm in Germany right now and they don't have the special keyboard with the special characters. Then we've got two speakers on the side here. It's probably not the best placement for speakers, especially if we have two anyway, but the Samsung Galaxy Tab A10.1, for example, has the same speaker placement. On the top, we've got a volume rocker, power button, and a reset button here. And on this side, I hope you can see, we've got a couple of ports, obviously the connector for the power plug and a 3.5mm audio jack. Then we've got the micro USB 3.0 port here. You've seen this from your external hard drive, for example, or I believe the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 had a micro USB 3.0 port as well. But we've got a USB Type-C port there and a micro SD card slot, so you can expand the storage. On the back, we've got a 5-megapixel webcam, and I believe the body here is mostly made out of metal. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems to be metal, probably aluminium. Sometimes it's hard to say, but it seems to be aluminium here. This is plastic here, this top part, probably the antennas are behind it. And yeah, the build quality for that price is actually not bad at all. It doesn't feel as high-end as a Surface Pro. Obviously, it's much more expensive. Yeah, but it seems to be quite nice. The only downside maybe about the build quality is the bezel here, where it goes from the plastic to the metal. But it's still fine, especially at this price. For $320, you usually get something like a Lenovo Mix 320, for example. And that one only has an Intel Atom X5, and that one is much less powerful. Actually, it seems like my Geekbench has been closed, so I will just quickly run it again while I go further around the device. So let's quickly start the Geekbench 4 stuff so that I have some results to show you near the end of this video. So let's just run it. As I said, this is an Intel Core M3 of the 7th generation, and we're also having 4 GB of RAM and a 128 GB SSD, and out of those you have around 105 GB to use by yourself, so that's actually a good amount of storage. Obviously, more is always nice with a Windows device, but yeah, the last notebook I had 128 GB only as well. It's certainly usable, especially if you are using external hard drives and a lot of cloud storage. Alright, not much else to say about the hardware. Obviously, we have this adapter to put an external hard drive on it, or a big SD card reader or something. While this benchmark is running, let's just open the browser. This is obviously standard Windows 10, and actually we have the benchmark results here. From my previous test run, it's just above 3,000 points in the single core test and 5,859 points in the multi-core test, which are actually pretty nice results. And I can just quickly open mynexttablet.com to compare it with my last Windows tablet review, and so that we can see some benchmarks. The Acer Switch 3, that's the last Windows tablet I reviewed. That one has an Intel Apollo Lake chipset, and it cost just over 400 euros. It's probably just over 400-500 US dollars, and yeah, it's much more expensive and only has an Intel Apollo Lake chip. It's a nice tablet, but not as powerful as this one. As you've seen, it was about 3,000 in the single core test and over 5,000 in the multi-core test. So the benchmarks, the Geekbench 4 benchmarks, are actually similar to the ones from last year's Huawei MateBook that had the one I tested, Core M5 of the 6th generation. So as you can see, in this comparison chart here. It's much noticeably better than the N4200 from the Acer Switch 3, the Apollo-like chipset, and much better than the Intel Atom X5 tablets. For example, the Lenovo Mix 320, the Asus Transformer Mini, or the Acer Switch 10. Those have a much lesser performance, even though they're not much cheaper than this Cube Mix Plus here. So that's certainly always very interesting about these tablets from China, that they can be this inexpensive. So that are the benchmark results, and everything else should work like it works. The performance of the Core M3 is pretty well known. There shouldn't be any problems. I'm playing YouTube videos, doing office work, doing some light, and there we've got the other Geekbench results. Doing some light Photoshop work, Lightroom, maybe even video editing. That usually works quite nicely with the Core M3. Obviously it's not a high-end gaming device, but yeah, it's a Core M3. You can hear the speakers here. The quality is alright, certainly not the best, but that's really not to be expected from a tablet at this price. Right, that's just the Edge browser. If you haven't used Windows 10 before, you probably do have it on your notebook or your PC. It works exactly the same on the tablet, with one difference: you can actually activate the tablet mode, and then Windows 10 is much more touch friendly. For example, apps open full screen easily. You've got a couple of gestures. For example, by swiping, you can get out this little action center here, and you can open two apps side by side with a gesture as well. I could open one here, and you can also close apps with a gesture. So Windows 10 is basically Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, the touch interface, but you can just go to the desktop interface. I don't have the official keyboard, but I do have the keyboard I use with most of my tablets that I review. That's the Microsoft Universal Keyboard, and so far I quite like it. And it works with Windows, Android, and even with iOS. So it's connected, yes, via Bluetooth, and then I could just start Notepad and start to type. Obviously, you can connect any keyboard to this, any Bluetooth keyboard. You can use this adapter to connect an old keyboard that you have lying around. You really can use any keyboard that works with Windows. There shouldn't be any problem. And yeah, like now I'm using this Bluetooth keyboard that works quite nicely. And yeah, that's actually it. Not much else to say about the Cube Mix Plus, at least in this unboxing. I will review it now, do a battery test, do some Photoshop work, edit a video on here. That's what I usually do for my Windows tablet reviews. If you have anything that I should try out, maybe an interesting game that should be able to work on here, write it down below in the comments so that I can try it and include it in my final review. Yeah, this is a quick unboxing and hands-on with the Cube Mix Plus. At this price, it's really, almost quite impressive that we can get an Intel Core M3, 7th generation M3, 4 GB of RAM, 128 GB SSD at just $320, when most known manufacturers like Lenovo, Asus, Acer are giving us, for that price, much less powerful hardware. Alright, a quick unboxing with the Cube Mix Plus. As I said, if you have any questions, write them down below. I'm NJ for mynexttablet.com. Thanks for watching.